In this presentation, we are going to discuss about the various operating system design issues with respect to the mapping of any IOs and for implementing this buffering concepts into the IO. So, operating system design issues, there are the major two design issues with respect to the IO while designing the operating system. One is called as efficiency, another one is called as a generality. In this efficiency, always this IO, it creates a bottleneck of any operating systems. That is the performance of the in many cases the performance is influenced by the IO also. So while designing the operating system, we have to keep into the consideration of efficiency of each and every IO devices to improve the system efficiency. So this is one of the very important characteristics. Why it creates a bottleneck is because of many of the IO devices are very slow when compared to the main memory and the processor. So in that case, obviously the performance will be degraded like anything. So what is the remedy we can do in this part to improve the efficiency of the operating system is we can make use of multi-programming, so that if any IO process will take care, so the swapping decision, the scheduling decision will take care, and we will make some readily available process and bring it into the main memory for execution. So what will happen is this will brings the operating system to improve its CPU utilization and performance in a very better way, because always the processor is executing some processes. So such a way we can able to improve the efficiency. So the major effort in IO design has been schemes for improving the efficiency of the IO. So we have to take all these schemes while designing the operating systems. Generality. So in this generality is another one major important objective of operating system. In this we need to create the simplicity and freedom from errors. Okay, to handle all the devices in a uniform manner, we have to provide a simplest way and freedom for errors also, as in the part of both in the operating system and as well as also IO devices. Since many IO devices are having its different characteristics, so we have to bring it into the very simple structure and a uniform way. It is very difficult. So in this it is very difficult to achieve this generality. So one way we can do achieve this is design goal with the help of following some architectures, so that it reduce the complexity of the various IO devices and various components which is presented in the operating system. So we can go with the modular approaches also. So that's why in the beginning of the classes I said the operating system, it is in the hierarchical, it is the layered architecture is in the hierarchical manner. So it hides most of the details of the device IO in lower level routines. That is a major highlight of if we are having the hierarchical systems. As the user's perspective, it will say only the we can look only that IO devices with respect to the general functions such as like read, write, open, close, lock and unlock. This is way we can able to achieve the generality. Then the logical structure of the IO functions. So here we are going to maintain the hierarchical structure. So obviously it is separated with the every layer, it have a separate complexity and the character time scale and its level of abstractions. So this organization, it falls in the series of layers. one layer input is given into the another layer, one layer output is given into the another layer input for successful completion. So it provides services to the next layers also. If we are making any changes in the one layer, it does not require, it will not impact into the other layers also. So what we are doing is, here we are decomposing the entire problem into the manageable small sub problems. So this will interact. If we have a structure is like this, obviously the lower layers is directly interact with the computer hardware, so that we can able to achieve our own task. So the part of the operating system communicate with the user. So one part of the operating system will communicate to the user, and it will generate the IO commands whenever it is required, and it performs the operation with the help of these layers. In generally, we have three major layers are there. So organization typically depends upon what type of data we are going to use and what is the type of applications. As I said, there are three more general logical structure of this. So all the local peripheral devices that communicate in a simple way with the help of a stream of bytes or records. So there are three levels of IO are there. One is a logical IO. The logical IO, it deals with the devices as logical resources. So every IO devices are treated as a logical resource. We are not here in this case, we are not going to concern with the actual controlling of the devices, because it is a logical resources. It going to manage only the general IO functions, that is the operating system is going to manage only the general IO functions and deal with the devices with the help of the device identifiers. So every device is having its own ID, that is called as a device identifier. So the operating system is going to issue the commands on behalf of the users only with the help of that device identifiers, and perform the simple operations like open, close, read, and then write. And next is device IO, and this device IO is the operations data are converted into the appropriate sequence of IO instructions and commands under the control orders. So in this case, we have to use the buffering techniques for improving the utilization, because the entire data which is going to be converted, the operations and the data is going to be converted, which is in the form of a set of IO instructions and commands. So we need a buffering. This buffering concept which will facilitate the system to improve its own efficiency or the performance. Scheduling and control. The third one is called as scheduling and control. So even though there are so many IO devices are there, so the actual queuing and scheduling of an IO operations occur at this layer. So here we are going to concentrate on the scheduling and as well as also the control of the operations. Like if there is any IO device is waiting, the software which will influence that actually interacts with the IO module to complete its execution. So the interrupt is also handled in this layer. Only it is the IO status will be collected and it is reported to the user. The first one, the local peripheral devices. This is a diagrammatic representation. So in this is the local logical IO, the three device structures are there. So the hardware is directly controlled with the scheduling and control and device IO and logical IO and then user process. And we have another one architecture. So in this, the IO model, the same concepts we are going to use, but only thing is here we are going to modify, that is replace this IO model in by the communication architecture. The simple example as a TCP IP architecture. See, the peripheral IO is removed and it is replaced by the communication architecture. And third one, the third architecture for managing the IO and the secondary storage devices, it also supports the file systems, because if I want to support the secondary storages, then obviously we need to have the file management systems also. So this is a diagram for managing these file support systems. See, the file support system is also included. Once the file support system is there, then we need to have the directory management support also. So the three layers are, one is called as a directory management, and another one a file system, and third one is a physical organization. So the directory management, in this directory management is the symbolic file names are converted into the identifiers. That identifiers are used to refer the files directly or indirectly through the file descriptor values or the index values. So every file name which is converted into the some integer value, that is called acting as a file descriptor value or an index value for the particular file. So with the help of that index value, we can access the file directly or indirectly through the directory management systems. So this management system is used for the user operations like directory of files such as addition, deletion, and reorganize the particular files. And next is a file system. In this, the logical structure of a files and with the operations that can be specified by the user, such as open, close, read, and write. So this layer, it deals about the logical structure of the particular files. It also deals about open, close, read, and write of the particular files. Once it deals about the logical structure, so we need to give the access permission for the various users. That also will be dealt by this file system layer. So next is a physical organization. This physical organization is that actual virtual memory is converted into the physical memory to access the particular storage files or a directory for a reading or writing purpose. So next is I/O buffering. So far we have discussed about the various design issues which we focusing on while designing the operating systems. There are the two major design issues. One is called as the efficiency of the I/O device, because always it creates a bottleneck of the operating system with respect to the performance or the efficiency. Because the various I/O devices, it performs the operations in a very slow manner when compared to the main memory and as well as also the processor. Then generality, in this generality we have to maintain the simplicity, that is, we want to access all the hardware in a unique manner. But it is very tedious task to maintain the true generalities because of various I/O devices is having its own structures. So what we have to do is, to achieve this, we need to have some logical organization of the I/O structures. That is done only with the help of the hierarchical structures or the hierarchical manner. Because the operating system, it is arranged as it have a various layers. It is arranged in the form of a hierarchical manner only. So the same type of hierarchical structures only we are going to maintain to improve the efficiency of the operating systems and to reduce the complexity of the various devices at the user's perspectives. So next is I/O buffering. So in this I/O buffering, we are going to discuss about how we are going to increase the efficiency of the I/O devices, since it is in a very slow when compared to the other devices, especially a main memory and a processor. So how we can able to bring it into the higher efficiency? So here we need to include the buffers also. In that case, we are going to consider the two major operations. One is called as a stream oriented operations and another one is called as a block oriented operations. As a stream oriented operations, we are going to transfer the data from the secondary storage to the main memory, or a main memory to the secondary storage only with the help of some characters. Whereas in the block memory, we can block data transfer, we can transfer the data a block by block at a time with some specified times, which will be specified block of size. It may be 512 bytes within the stipulated time period. And also we are going to discuss about in case in the IO, every operating system it have its own buffers, but in this IO module, if we are keeping a buffer, then what is the use and how we can improve the efficiency of the operating systems, all these things we are going to discuss. So if we have a buffering, there are the three types of a buffering concepts are useful here. That is, a IO module is equipped with the single buffer, and a IO module is equipped with the double buffer. That meaning of a double buffer is one buffer will take care of IO and another buffer will take care of other executions of the particular process, and third one is a circular buffer. Suppose if I want to continuously in a rapid way, if I want to execute the IO burst, if I want to execute the IO operations, then obviously we need a pool of buffers. That pool of buffers here is called as a circular buffers. So all these things we are going to discuss in this IO buffering concepts. Right. So I want to have a process want to read the particular block of data which is resided in the disk. The size of the block is a 512 bytes. Okay. Now all the 512 bytes which will be stored in the virtual memory location, that is 1000 to 1511. So first it has to copy the entire data into the particular copy the data into the disk, copy the data from the disk and store it into the pages. That virtual memory address is 1000 to 1511. Okay. So the operating system is going to use, that is a processor is going to use the IO command which will be like read block 1000 comma disk. Okay. In this case the waiting may occur, so we have to suspend on the interrupt. If we will talk about more practically, that it means that this always this since it is on a virtual location, the 10,000 to 1511 is always supposed to be available, remains the same while reading the particular processes. It leads to the two problems. One is it deals about waiting time. The program is hang up in waiting time for the relatively slow IO to complete, and next one this IO interface with the swapping decisions by the operating systems. To overcome these problems, so what we want to do is we want to have some target location must be locked. That is, we have to lock the target location, otherwise we may lost some of the data. It means that it always, since it is in a virtual location or in a virtual memory, we cannot able to assure that the entire duration of our time this memory location is always having those expected data. So because of that we need to lock the particular main memory, otherwise we will be lose some data. If a process issues an IO command, so what are the things we want to do it? First, it's suspended awaiting the result. So the rest of the instructions it's supposed to be suspended and swapped out prior to the beginning of the operations for completing this IO. The process is blocked waiting on the IO event. The interrupt is going to be issued. Until then the process is going to be in the waiting state, will be in the waiting state, and IO operation is blocked once the particular IO is released. And this leads to the deadlock condition because it has to wait. To avoid this deadlock, what we have to do it, we need to lock the main memory immediately before once the request is issued. Otherwise, no, it will wait for n number of a time, that is indefinite blocking will happen. It leads to the problem of a starvation, so that we cannot able to access the particular memory. Why is because of, keep in mind, it is located in the virtual memory. It is located in the virtual memory. The same sort of operations is also to be achieved in the output operations also. That is, if a block is being transferred from a user process area directly to an IO module, then the process is to be blocked, because until the transfer will happen or until the operation will be completed, there is no swap in or swap out concept of the particular processes. To avoid, actually to implement this, it creates the overhead and also the inefficiency. So to overcome this, we have to perform the input transfer in advance of request. We have to make the request in very advance, and to perform the output transfer sometimes after the request is made. So issue the request in well in advance. So after getting the complete request only, we have to transfer the data. So for this technique, obviously we need a buffering. So this is now this technique is known as a buffering. Without buffering concepts, we cannot able to do it, because once we have to receive all the requests, after getting the request only, successful completion of the request only, we are going to issue the we are going to copy or transfer the actual data. So in this case, we need a buffering concepts. Okay, so this buffering concept, which improves the system performance, as there are the two types of IO devices which we discussed earlier. One is a block oriented and stream oriented. Okay, so the disk and USB are the examples of a block oriented devices, and for stream oriented, terminals, printers, communication ports, mouse, all these things are treated as a stream oriented. Here I am not going to much of this definition of the particular block oriented and stream oriented, because which we already discussed in the earlier presentation itself. So directly I am moving to the concept. If we have a earlier system which is based on this one only, there is no buffering. In operating system there is no buffering, only in the user process only we have a buffers. But whereas now this concept we will have in the operating system, why not we have the buffer? If we have a buffer, how the performance will increase? Okay, so as a single buffer in operating system, we have only one buffer is there, whereas this buffer it handles all the IO requests which is assigned by the given by the user process. So what will happen is, once the input transfers are made to the system buffer, then automatically the process moves the block into the user space and immediately requests the another block. So from the IO module, from the respective location, it will transfer the data into the particular buffer, and we can access at any time. So this is called reading ahead or anticipated input. This approach will relatively speed up the particular operations because we have a buffering. Now see that how the performance comparison for the single buffering and no buffering is. We have a two parameter, one is called as a T and C. T is the time required to input one block. What is T? T is the time required to input one block, and C is the computation time that intervenes between input request. If we have a without request, without buffering, the execution time is T plus C. It's a combination of a both. It's adding of a both, then only we can, that is called as a execution time. But whereas in a single buffer, which one is the maximum of C comma T plus M, where M is the time required to move the data, that is the transfer time from the system buffer to the user memory. And we have a double buffering concept. So in this double buffering concept, one buffer will take care of input and output operations, and another one buffer will take care of the user's request. And we have a circular buffer. So circular buffer, if it is we are going to maintain the pool of buffers here for to have a rapid of IO executions, right? So this is the way a buffering is achieved in the IO devices. And the utility of buffering, obviously it improves the performance, and no amount of buffering will allow IO devices to keep pace with a process indefinitely when average demand of the process is greater than the IO device can service. So we can transfer multiple files at a time, because we have multiple buffers are there. Without having a waiting time, we can transfer the data. right? So these are the ways we can improve the performance of the IO devices. So in generally we have three cases are there. One is called as a single buffer IO device is operating system is equipped with the single buffer and double buffer and a circular buffer, that is a pool of buffers. Thank you.